Session 3 began at the Keep, which has tentatively been titled Earth's Chain, until the party thinks of a new name for their keep and stronghold. The party was greeted by the steward, Lord Thomas, who gave them some guidance on the various structures they could construct. The party created a temple, an alchemy lab, an armory, and an enchanter. Each party member who was present for the session, who also attended last session, had the opportunity to do a little bit of role play with the shadowy figure who sent them a message via courier in the last session. After role playing, each party member received a particular bonus to their abilities and or a formula that they could use to create things. For example, Pat was given a recipe for creating poisons. Yelna was given a guide to brewing potions. Steve-O was shown a vision from the magic mirror where he saw the following image. And Leo was given the training to create magical weapons and armor by the Marshal, who is his mentor and also his faction leader. And one of our party members was not present for the session, so we had a substitute that filled in for Crimson and played the role of a fighter rogue that helped the party, and a little bit more about that in a moment. So the party, after engaging in some role play there and identifying their skills and their perks, Steve-O created some healing potions for each member of the party, which came in handy later. And Pat created a poison, and Yorkel had received a perk to his holy symbol that added an additional +1 damage to his attacks for the session. And then Yelna was able to procure the recipe for brewing potions, and more information will be provided about that in the future. I'll provide a link to the recipes in the Discord channel. So then Lord Thomas bid the party farewell and was grateful that the party came in person rather than sending so many messenger birds, which had pooped all over his windowsill. And he was very grateful that the ledge now is all free of all the messenger birds, and he goes back to his duties and starts cleaning off all the bird crap from the windows. And so the party is then charged with trying to find the Varam, V-A-R-R-A-M, Varam, and the white mask of the dragon. And to do so, they follow the lead to the tomb of Diderius. And upon arriving at the entrance, they noticed a large amount of troll dung and some destruction to the property. They did not see any trolls, however, but they did not fully explore the outer area of the tomb. When they arrived, they explored the tomb. They encountered a chimera, and in a fatal blow, Leo was able to flay its ear off of the lion head. The chimera has 3 heads. Was able to flay the ear off of the lion, and they brought the chimera down with a magic missile at the very end. And then when it perished, Leo also took one of the horns from the goat side, the goat head of the chimera, and they extracted blood in vials. Each party member extracted at least one vial of blood from it. It's up to you all to keep track of all that on your own. So then after the Chimera, they located a secret passageway that led to a treasure room that Diderius, the mage, had set up. And in the treasure room, they received 750 gold pieces each worth of cash. They also found a crumbling book that's titled Transubstantiality Across Potentialities, that was stuck between the bed and the wall. And they found 4 goblets next to the bed that were magical, which when drinking from them gave them resistance to poison. And I believe they did drink from them, although they did not encounter anything that could have poisoned them that night. So they can keep the goblets, but the poison resistance effect is no longer available. It's been used. And they also found 7 silk robes in an airtight chest. And I'll leave it up to you all to decide what you want to do with those 7 robes. If you sell them, they're worth 50 gold pieces each. If you want to hang on to them, you may certainly put them in your armory, in your stronghold. That would be an appropriate place for them. And then finally, there was an amethyst ring available, and they need to take that to someone with the identification skill to fully ascertain what that does. They arrived then at the divination pool, and the divination pool was almost completely empty. There was only just a little bit of water down at the bottom. And the party learned that Diderius had really constructed this entire place around that pool. It had tremendous significance to Diderius, again, who was a mage, and Stevo and the party and others were able to use their arcana and their history rolls to recall that mages, when they get old, they usually go one of several different paths. Some of them realize their mortality and they want to become more or less immortal by becoming a lich. And that goes through its own process involving a certain sequence of steps. And depending on how that goes, the mage could potentially become a lich or a demi-lich or whatnot. And then other mages, they can become what's called a mummy lord, which is kind of a bit lower prestige than being a lich, but powerful nonetheless. And it so happened that they had heard the legend that Diderius had become a mummy lord. So they knew what they were after, and when they got to the pool, they were able to identify that this was a little bit odd that it was on the empty side. And one of the party members thought that it would be funny to urinate in the divination pool. And when he did so, it ignited his stream of urine, much like taking a torch to oil, and the flame shot right up the stream of urine right up to his genitals, causing 8 fire damage to that particular region. And it was perhaps it could have been to his advantage had he had any sort of warts down there that needed to be burned off. Perhaps it did him a favor. Who knows? Too much information. Nevertheless, the party they proceeded past the divination pool and into the crypt of Diderius, and they were a bit surprised by the mummy lord and his entourage of mummies that became animated as soon as they opened the door, and they fought bravely against the mummy lord and his entourage. And the mummy lord had cast dust into their eyes, causing temporary blindness. The party was able to shake that off and still maneuver. And then after the Mummy Lord Diderius had taken quite a bit of damage. He converted himself into a whirlwind and twirled through the door past the melee fighters and back into the back ranks where the more squishy characters were, such as the sorcerers. And then he cast fear on some of them, and this caused some of the party members to flee, and Yelna polymorphed into a giant ape and pounded on the Mummy Lord pretty hard, inflicting somewhere around 40 or 50 damage all in one turn, which was quite impressive. It banged him up pretty badly, and Pat the Gloomstalker also did a tremendous amount of damage there in that round, which really banged up that Mummy Lord really badly, and his wrappings started to fall off of his body. And then finally, when they did the death blow to the Mummy Lord, he fell into the divination pool, and as soon as he landed in there, the water started to fill the pool back up, and his dressings, his bandages all floated to the top. Now the party celebrated this victory and was able to gather some of the additional treasure from down there. The party believes that there may be other areas down there to explore. They're not sure. They did see some arrows that were fired into the door, and these were very particular, curious arrows. And more will be revealed should they choose to investigate that. So additional treasure, additional 50 gold pieces apiece. 2 scrolls of protection from energy were located, and the amethyst ring of resistance was there. You need to bring it in to the shop to find out exactly what it resists. And then by my calculations here, that brings the total, the party received an additional 800 gold pieces there in the treasure hoard there in Diderius' tomb. So the grand total for each party member after the session is 1,550 gold pieces in total, and everyone gains a level. And I just want to remind everyone that Leo is able to create magical armor and weapons of the +1 level at this time. His skills are able to do that. So if you would like to do that, speak to Leo, your fellow party member, who can help you do that. The price of crafting such item is 375 gold pieces. Is what it costs to run the enchantment process. That's to procure all of the reagents necessary to enchant it. And yeah, that money doesn't go directly to Leo. That's just to cover the cost of all of the things that are in there. So just if you want to make that, then you just deduct that from your sheet to cover the materials cost. But I'm sure Leo wouldn't mind terribly if you wanted to throw him some coin. But I'll leave all that up to you, how you want to do that among yourselves. So that's what I have in my notes. It was a great session. I enjoyed DMing it very much. It was very action-oriented at the end. In the beginning, it was very role-play and very resource management, as it were, creating your keep. Your keep now, it's not large enough to support the construction of any other establishments. So in order to build more establishments, that is things like a bank or whatever, you will need to upgrade the keep. And it is also essential to build something like a tower. The tower is something to look into. It would enable you to cast long-range magic spells. You can think of them as medieval ICBMs that you could use to great effect, perhaps later in the adventure. I'll leave that all up to you, and I'll see you online.